Welcome to the Glitch Mob podcast. I'm Monica Vanderpool. I'm going to be your host today, and I am here with Jami Kay Killian. She is a relationship coach. Her company is Healthy Human Happy Life, and she specializes in detoxing your life. She has a degree in psychology. She's a certified meditation instructor, and she has 30 years of dealing with toxic people and partners. Bless your heart. So we're actually going to talk today about toxic and abusive relationships. And let's dive into, Jami, where did your journey start?
Well, first of all, thank you, Monica. Thank you so much for asking me. And I'm just so blessed to get to know you. I feel like we're kindred spirits, and I am so excited for, what might come in our relationship. But what got me started? Well, it was a diagnosis of autoimmune disease, and that was around 2006. And it was odd because I had gone in for some blood work, and she was like, "You have this deficiency and this deficiency." You just started listing them. And
Yeah.
my kids were with me. Of course, they were young at the time, teenager-ish. And they said, how is that possible? My mom eats healthier than anybody on this planet. I mean, because I was always on them about it. Um, and so she was like, that's very interesting, which led her to do the blood work for celiacs.
Mhm.
And her daughter had just been diagnosed with it. And so she kind of knew what to look for. And she was like, "You eat so well. I wonder if," and that's what took me down that route. I didn't really know what celiac was. I knew I had some hormonal things, which also led me to find out I had Hashimoto's, which is also another autoimmune disease. And then later finding out I had rheumatoid arthritis in my lower back, which is another autoimmune disease. And typically when you have one, you have more than one.
Right.
But I thought that was really weird because I take really good care of myself. I eat really well. And so I couldn't understand what happened. Where did that come from? And so because I'm a researcher, I'm like, okay, let me dig in, let me find out. And I had
And,
discovered
and
that,
at this time, you were married?
yes,
Okay,
yes,
married. Okay.
I had three girls, five total. We had five total children, and
Mhm.
three biological girls. And they were at that time, all everybody was at home. I was homeschooling my kids, doing all the thing as far as that goes. So it didn't have like a lot of stress because I know stress will bring that on.
Yeah.
Um, so it was really confusing. And at the time, my relationship was um I didn't know that I was in a toxic relationship at that time. I knew
Mhm.
something felt odd and something felt weird, and I always had to like explain every expenditure, explain where I was going at all times. And it felt at the time like, oh, he cares. He's very concerned. I
Mhm.
didn't understand that there was a control and manipulation aspect of it, especially the financial control.
Mhm.
That was huge. But so my disease kind of led me to do the research on discovering that a lot of times autoimmune diseases are from a chronic PTSD, which is from childhood abuse and abuse in a relationship. And so I was like, abuse.
Yeah.
And I just kind of blew it off, thought I'm going to take the natural way, try to figure out all the ways I can do this, go gluten free, which I did. And it was actually a blessing. I consider it a blessing because I feel better than I've ever felt in my life. And
That's one thing that I'm discovering now is that gluten-free life. I'm trying
uh,
to,
I honestly,
I feel so much better when I eat gluten-free. So much better.
yeah, I mean, you don't have to have a diagnosis of celiacs in order to feel better not eating gluten free because there is something called wheat belly, or you could have just a normal gluten
Mhm.
allergy to it. And it's really, I the data's out about it, but really it's not the gluten that you're allergic to. It's the chemicals they spray on it.
Mhm.
And there's some data about the GMOs, how they've modified our wheat over here because apparently the wheat in like Italy and places like that, it doesn't bother people who have, gluten allergies. I don't know, I've never tried because I haven't been to Italy. That's on my bucket list.
Yeah.
But So yeah, that's what started. And then I was in school to finish my degree. I went to Liberty University, and psychology was very interesting to me because I love to pick apart people's, behaviors and mindsets and things like that. So, um, I went back to school to finish my degree when my baby was a junior in high school. The other two had already left, and there was a lot of tension in the home.
Mhm.
Um, because I had decided to kind of do a little outside the home job. She wanted to go to private school. There was no way for us to financially afford that on one income. So I started teaching piano, and I also took up a little multi-level marketing job on the side, which I fell in love with. I loved it. It was helping people lose weight, and I just had the best time. And I started being a little successful. And there was a lot of tension with that because I had other men texting me, "Hey, can I eat this? And what about this? And what about that?" And there was a lot
Mhm.
of
He didn't like that.
jealousy,
Mhm.
yeah, insecurity. And, to be honest, I understand,
Mhm.
when you have insecurities for yourself, it's very hard to like just let your a person be out there
Right.
and be, and there had been some comments made from some close friends and family about, I mean, some negative things to him, and it was very rude and disrespectful. But people would say things like, "Well, how does it feel to have such a hot wife?" And you're still over here just drinking and doing whatever you want to do. And I was like, I mean, that was so embarrassing and humiliating, and I felt so bad for him. And I tried to get him on the bandwagon. Let's eat healthy. Let's do this. And there was a lot of resistance. A lot of, "You're not going to tell me what to do. You're not going to control me,"
Mhm.
which is funny because I have noticed over time that a lot of people in abusive relationships or toxic relationships, their partner is the one doing the controlling, but they are often accusing you of controlling them
Mhm.
because it is completely a projection of what's going on inside of them
Yeah.
that they're accusing you of.
Right.
So that's, a good tip, honestly, to know if you are in a controlling, manipulative, unhealthy, toxic relationship.
Yeah.
What are they accusing you of? Because a lot of times that's exactly what's going on inside of them.
Mhm.
Um, so let's see, where am I in this whole
I'm
story?
glad,
But
I'm glad you hit on that point. That I feel like that's so true. And that's something that I definitely noticed towards the end of my marriage with him, is that
mm,
he was accusing me of stuff that like I would never in a million years imagine doing, but it was things that he had done to me in the past. And he had convinced
mhm.
himself that I was doing these things. And yeah, that was a sign for me for sure.
I think it's something to look into, as a like if you were a clinical psychologist or a clinical researcher. I think it would be very fascinating to find out if these people, abusers, toxic, manipulative, narcissist, whatever you want to call them, cluster B, look into what, um if what they're accusing you of doing is something that they've done in the past, and find out if that's like they're in it, in a sense they're trying to manipulate you, but they're manipulating themselves. They're
Hmm.
manipulating themselves into believing that you are the one that's doing the behavior when they're the one doing it. So
Hmm.
it's like a gaslighting, it's a form of gaslighting, but they're doing it
I
to
was going to say
themselves.
that it's a form of gaslighting, for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. So
So what
after
was your
going
like?
through,
I was going to ask you what was your tipping point? Like, what was it like? Oh, okay, okay, I need to get out of this relationship. It's a toxic
yeah.
relationship that is kind of initiating
So
things.
yeah, that was going to school. When I went through some of these psychology classes, I was like, there was a lot of um work that we were doing because I was going to be a life coach.
Hmm.
And there was a marriage class that I was taking on how to be a like kind of like a mentor life coach for marriage
Hmm.
people. And there was like a questionnaire that we were given and we could give to our clients. I took it for myself and I was like, oh my gosh, this
Yeah.
is my relationship. That was my awakening,
Hmm.
that I was in an abusive. Now, it wasn't physically abusive. Um, it was just control.
Hmm.
There was no verbal. abuse at all in that relationship. So I want to that's something I think I want to be very clear with, because a lot of women feel like this relationship sucks and there's something wrong, but he's not hitting me and he's not saying bad words, or he's not calling me names, or he's not verbally abusing me. But I kept asking my counselor at the time, what is emotional abuse? Because I felt like that's what was happening.
Yeah.
And it's such an elusive term that it's really hard for anyone to explain it. And he refused to explain it to me. And I think it was because he knew if I knew, I would leave.
Yeah.
So I hung in there, and he was a Christian counselor and he wanted me to work on the marriage. And I hung in there, but going to school and taking that questionnaire was my tipping point. And then I had met a friend who, she had gone through a divorce, and she, her and I shared some things, and she was like, he's a narcissist. And I was like, a what? No, he's not. Like, I knew what a narcissist was, those grandiose behaviors of male chauvinism and, women's places in the home. And I never, that's not him at all. I didn't know that there was, first of all, a spectrum on the narcissistic, kind of scale. And also that there were different types, like covert, malignant, over. I mean, I didn't understand. And so that took me down into a deep dive of discovering terms. And it took me about another 2 years of just back and forth with my therapist, like really not believing. I really was in denial. I cannot, there's no way that he's not, there's no way. I just remember one time she said, be careful, because they're usually, I guess she had seen this so many times. She said, the next step is he's going to begin tracking you. And I was like, he would never do that. She was like, oh, okay. That weekend, I had gone to the river to clear my mind, and I was sitting at the dam watching the water. I got back to the house, and he had gone through my car, and he told me he was looking for this letter, and I was like, what? Why are you in my car? Like, he has a whole separate side of the garage, and I was like, why are you in my garage going through my car? I'm looking for this letter. There's blah, blah, blah. Come to find out later, I didn't know this till later, but he was showing me something on his phone in his pictures, and I noticed like a map with a dot, and I was like, what is that?
Your tracker on your car?
He put a tracker on my car. And I went to my therapist, and I was like, you're not gonna believe this. She was like, oh yes, I do.
She's like, I told you.
That's what really was like, okay, this really does feel like control at this point. Like, and in the past, it had all made sense. Like, I would go to the grocery store once a week, and I would run all my errands once a week. I wasn't allowed, like, it wasn't that I wasn't allowed, it was that I was encouraged to do everything on one day. And it made sense because financially, we're a single income family. We need to conserve gas. We need to make sure that we're getting all the good deals at one time. It made sense then. But then later, I was understanding that he was trying to keep me home. It's not that he was trying to isolate me. He just didn't want me to be out in the world. And there was a sense of me, as I was very immature when I met him, emotionally and in every other way. And so to me, that felt like security and protection and like a father figure that I never had. And I mean, I have a great relationship with my parents now, but then it felt loving. Like, oh, he cares about me. He wants to know where I am at all times. That feels so beautiful. But then whenever I wanted to kind of spread my wings a little bit and go into this multi-level marketing, it was, well, you need to prove where your money's going. You need to put it back into the finances of the home. You need to, and there was just a lot of There was a lot of fighting around money, a lot of fighting around money. And I was constantly having to ask for permission to buy things like cleaning supplies, which is ridiculous. It's ridiculous. I asked at one point for a budget, or I mean, like an allowance. And he said, absolutely not. Wow. So anyways, it was that part. And I know that now he regrets some of that. He really does. But, so, we all grow, we all learn, and some people change and some people don't. Um, there are some changes he's made, but that's a relationship that's in my past, and I just don't like. I honor him because he's my kid's dad, but it's not something I want to get back into and
So
start
were
all
you,
over
you
again.
were the one that pulled out of the relationship.
Yeah, I did.
You
Yeah,
recognized all these signs and
yeah. My
yeah.
friend helped me see a lot of it. And then, I didn't make great choices coming out of that. I also didn't know that I could get alimony. I had no idea. I thought I was stuck in this relationship. I didn't know what to do, how to get out. I did have some help from family, thankfully, to get out and get in my own apartment. And that was helpful, like getting away from it so I could clear my mind. Because we had separated. I'd stayed upstairs for probably a year before that. And my high school daughter said, "Okay, I've seen you cry one too many times, Mom.
Mhm.
This tension in the house is killing me. Like,
Yeah.
either you need to leave, I need to leave, or we need to leave. I
Mhm.
can't live like this anymore." And that
Oh my God, that just gives me
was, yeah, that was everything. That was like, okay, her mental health, her emotional health is now in jeopardy. And I'm doing it because I'm staying here and not getting free from this. And it was hurting her. She's an empath, so she felt everything I was feeling. But anyways, that is where all of that just really transitioned. Unfortunately, I got right back into another toxic relationship, and this time it was much worse. So I remember, but here's the thing. I remember God telling me, he gave me the release from the marriage, and he had told me. I had gone to my husband at the time and I said, "Don't you want to try? Like, don't you want to try to stop drinking and try to get some help?" And of course, every counselor we went to, he knew how to manipulate them. He's like a victim mentality, so he knew how to manipulate them. And I left every counseling session in tears, every single one. It was not beneficial for both of us. At one point, a therapist said, "No longer are y'all allowed to come back together. I will not counsel you together. He tortures you." And I was like, "Whoa." That was the first time somebody had actually called him out on his terrible behavior.
yeah.
He wanted to see me squirm and be ashamed. And it was just so unloving. But I was, like I said, I was very immature mentally. So, but um, moving into another relationship, okay, back to the God told me to, he said, when I was asking him, "Do you not want to change? Do you not want to try?" And he was like, "You know what? You have changed." This is my first husband, my only husband, my ex-husband. He said, "You have changed. I have not, and I'm not gonna." I said, "Okay." So I went in the house, and I remember sitting on the back porch. Yeah, yeah.
But
I didn't have the um whatever, but lack of better words, the cojones to just leave right
yeah.
then. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So I remember sitting on the back porch and crying, and God whispered in my mental ear. He said, "This is your release."
Mhm.
I didn't leave right then. I was still too scared, and I
Yeah.
wished I would have, because I think it would have helped me, first of all, learn to listen to God and avoid some pitfalls that I kind of ran into, because I did get involved in a relationship. And I think that really caused more damage than what if I'd have just left.
Mhm.
And so, but I do remember God also saying, when I was praying to him, I remember him saying, um, "Hold on tight, because you're about to be in for the ride of your life." Now, little did I know that he was leading me into this other relationship because I had some stuff that I needed to work on. Some
Yeah.
toxic things, some woundings from my childhood, some traumas from my childhood that you're literally, you're not going to have a healthy relationship until you learn to work on what it is inside of you that this person is triggering. Because we all have stuff, but when it's these hysterical triggerings, something's
Yeah.
going on historically. So you
Mhm.
got to figure out where that is, make that
So,
connection.
so when did you realize that there's a little bit of childhood trauma that you had to deal with?
Um, It probably wasn't until about no, let me say 3 years ago when, um, because I was going to therapy and she kind of touched on it just a little bit, but I still wasn't making the connections of the way I was raised, the dysfunction I was in is a direct result of why I'm choosing these partners who are not meeting those needs.
Yeah.
So I couldn't get that. It wasn't until about 3 years ago I went through a business coaching class,
Mhm.
and it's called Soul Aligned Business Coaching. And Allie is the well, she just got married. Allie Posco is her name now, but Allie Daniels is who it was. And it's a year-long masterclass. And really, it's supposed to help you grow your business, but
Mhm.
it's called Soul Aligned for a reason. Because many times when we get in these businesses, like what we're doing, like life coaching or whatever, entrepreneurship, it sheds I mean, you're going to be exposed. You're going to be vulnerable. You're going to have to level up your emotional health, mental health, all of those areas of your life. You can't be an entrepreneur. You can't lead other people unless you've done the work for yourself. So during these times of classes with her, and we had weekly coaching classes, sometimes twice a week, we would delve into this inner child work.
Mhm.
And I mean, I would cry, but these were release cries. These were healthy cries. These were me making connections. Brooke Ritchie was one of the coaches, and she helped. She was a licensed therapist, but she helped us make these connections as to why we are having these limiting beliefs in our business because
Yeah.
of these childhood stuff that was going on with us in our past. We connected that bridge, and then I started seeing patterns of trauma that are related to my relationship that I was in at the time. So it was just like a big boiling pot of yucky that
Yeah.
I had to sort through. And in this
Oh,
class,
yeah.
it helped me. It helped me not only see my own stuff.
Mhm.
I tell everybody, even on the podcast I did with her, I said I learned more from you. There at the beginning, it's like an 8-week class, and then you can sign up for the whole year with them. But I learned more in 8 weeks about myself and about my childhood stuff than I
Yeah.
did in 8 years of therapy.
Mhm.
So what they were able to do with me, plus I was ready. You got to be ready. You got to have the foundation built, and I was ready. I was ready to hear the tough stuff that was going on with me that I contributed
Yeah.
to wanting someone else to fulfill those needs that honestly either only God can feel or I have the capacity to feel myself.
Yeah.
So we learned reparenting, we learned inner child thought work, we learned, you know, um, there's so many modalities that we used in there
Mhm.
that helped me grow as a person emotionally. And then it took me another year in that toxic relationship before I finally said, okay, this is it. I can't do this anymore. We are not on the same path. We fought all
How
the
many
time about that
years
stuff.
in that second relationship?
How many what?
How many years were you in that second relationship?
Off and on, 7 years.
7 years. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, we would break up and get back together. I always say that I'm the outlier. They say that in abusive relationships, it takes 7 times for women to actually leave and stay away. And I always say I skewed that percentage. I'm the outlier because I think it was
Yeah.
like 100 times that we broke up and then got back together
Yeah.
because I'm learning a little bit more about myself each time. And a lot of times we will believe people's words over their actions.
Mhm.
And so if someone says to you, I've changed, I've gotten better, I'm done the work, I went to therapy, I quit this bad behavior, I quit that bad behavior, I'm reading my Bible every day, blah, 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 blah,
Yeah.
blah. And then you get back together and it's the same stuff, just 10 times worse. And
Mhm.
so, yeah, that it was a hard lesson for me to finally get in my head that this is not going to change
Yeah.
because I truly did love this person. I think, you know, I hate to say this, but well, my ex would say this. He said to me, "You love him more than you ever loved me." And I didn't know what to say to that because it's true. I
Yeah.
cared about this person so deeply, but I am understanding now, and I hope this resonates with women, but I am understanding now that he met a deep longing inside of me that was that wound, was that trauma.
Right.
He met that, and because that felt so good to
Yeah.
be kind of, I want to say healed, but really not, because what they often do is they feel it, they feel that need, and then they take it away.
Mhm.
And then they feel it again and they take it away.
Yeah.
That creates the brain patterning cycle that keeps you stuck in the trauma bond.
Yeah.
That chemical that's released when they give you what you need and then take it away and get that
Right.
over and over and over,
Yeah.
that's what keeps you stuck in these relationships.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
that's a whole other subject is trauma bonds.
Oh, it's so complex,
Mhm.
but I think I love the way Dr. Ramani, she's an expert in the field on narcissism, and I love the way she explains it. So basic, because she says, if you ask a person, what do you like about this person? What are you in love with about this person? And they can't quite articulate it. They're just like, I don't know. It just feels so great when I'm around him. And then he's just, I don't know, we just have a deep connection. And you can have a deep connection, but you want to be able to list some things that are wonderful about this person, just
Yeah.
like that has
Yeah.
connected you to him.
Mhm.
And so I think that's a great explanation to kind of help people wrap their
Yeah.
head around what trauma bonding is. So if
Yeah.
that's your answer, if you're like, oh, I don't know, I just can't put my finger on it. It's just, you know, there's a great intimacy, or it's a great connection. But he's got all these other toxic behaviors. We have Houston, we have a problem.
Right. That's a really good
So
thing. I like that. So when did your healing start? Was it after the second relationship had ended?
no, it was when I was in this, I think I really don't think I started doing the work on myself until I was in that master class with Allie and her group of ladies. I
Mhm.
had a huge team of support from those ladies. So when you're in a toxic relationship, your number one priority is getting a support group.
Mhm.
That is your number one priority. They will isolate the heck out of you, and
Yeah.
you will feel like you are going crazy. You have to have somebody to bounce these things are saying off of. So get a part of a group, whether it's my group coaching. Leslie Vernick has a really group one, a good one. Natalie Hoffman has a really good one they're Christian based. And so a lot of women feel so much guilt for divorcing, or being in a relationship like this, and there's so much shame. So that's why I say those, like, or Dr. Ramani is good. Whatever it is, get
That
yourself.
was one reason that I stayed so long, because it was, as a Christian woman, you think in your head, does God really want me to divorce? I'm supposed to forgive and forget. I'm supposed to, like, you try and think of all these, things that you're supposed to stay in this relationship, and you feel guilty for leaving. Not just, you don't want God to be disappointed in you, that you
Yeah.
gave up too soon. That's what I kept telling myself, is like, I forget that analogy. It's the swimmer, where she's swimming and she can't really see, and she stops swimming, and come to find out she was just like 5 strokes from where she was supposed to go. Like, I say that to myself so many times, like, what if, next month is the month where he was going to make that big change? I kept telling myself that.
Yeah. Yeah,
Mhm.
that's a lot of women feel that way. I felt that way. It's why I stayed in the marriage for 28 years before
Mhm.
I finally was like, I cannot do this anymore. And then that's why I can continue to stay in this relationship after that, because I kept expecting that change. But the shame and the guilt, I I think that the church is getting better about understanding toxic relationships and abusive relationships. Not all churches, not all. They still have a long way to go. But
Mhm.
I think they're getting better on recognizing um, the toxic patriarchal society that we live in,
Yeah.
and that times are changing and we have to change with it. As Christians, we have to change with it. It doesn't mean we leave our values and our Christian beliefs to the side. It means we adapt so that we can be still in this world, but not part of this world.
Yeah.
What does that look like for a Christian? And for a woman, to me, abuse, verbal, emotional, financial, spiritual abuse, because see, that's spiritual abuse when they shame you for leaving, or when they try to quote scripture to explain to you why you should stay in this toxic relationship.
Or if they say something like, well, that's not what a godly woman would do.
Oh,
I
well,
thought you were a Christian woman. Oh, I can't stand it when they say that.
see, people have a misconception about what a Christian is
Mm-hmm.
because they feel like we're these, homely women who wear long dresses and always do the right thing and always keep our mouth shut and be subjective to our
And are
husbands and
perfect
never.
all the time.
No, I mean,
Yeah.
like literally, that is so not a definition of a Christian. And to be honest, the last relationship I was in, he used my Christianity against me
Mm-hmm.
by saying things like that, saying, you call yourself a Christian and yet you meditate, or you do this manifesting stuff, which the way I manifest is not worldly manifesting, it's godly manifesting, because I know the provider, I know the master of this universe, and that's who I'm asking for my manifesting. And I'm but if I said a bad word, or if I called him a bad word in reactive abuse, which that's a whole nother topic, reactive
Right.
abuse, like
There's
when
so
they
many, there's
push you
so
and
many
push you and
layers.
they're
There's so
so
many
true.
layers.
They will push you to the point where you act out of character,
Yeah.
but you know, I do not shame any woman for doing that. And a lot of there's a coach that I follow, and she said it so well. She said, I don't call it reactive abuse. I call it a normal response to someone torturing you. If you were in a POW camp and you could figure out a way to get out of there by maybe even killing your captor, that's what you're going to do.
Mm-hmm.
So why do we punish women or men? I mean, it can be both, but the majority of abuse is happening to women, the majority. But I know that there are, it does happen the other way around too.
Flows
But
both ways. Yeah.
yeah, but
Mhm.
why are we shaming people for having a normal reaction to your behavior towards them? I
Mhm.
just think that's BS.
Mhm.
And Jesus went in the temple and he flipped over the tables and he called it out what they were doing wrong.
Right.
So anger is not the problem.
Yeah, there's a righteous anger.
Defensiveness,
Mhm.
yes, and even defending yourself is not the problem. But you will come to a point in a narcissistic, toxic, unhealthy relationship where you will be like, at this point, I'm just too tired to fight with
Right.
you anymore. I
Yeah.
just don't care. I don't
I,
care
I
what you
just
think
I
of
just
me.
wanna I just wanna go to sleep, and then tomorrow's a new day.
Yeah.
There was so many
Yeah.
so many nights where that happened. I'm just gonna go to sleep
The
tonight, and tomorrow's a new day.
Yeah,
Mhm.
the fatigue and the exhaustion, oh, it's palpable, and it's sad. And I keep quoting Dr. Ramani because she's helped me so much. I mean, she doesn't even know who I am, but
Yeah.
she is just so approachable, and she just wrote a book, and I cannot wait for it to get here. I'm so excited. It's called It's Not You, and
Mhm.
it's already hit I think it's number 3 at New York Times bestseller right now.
Mhm.
Or in the New York Times, whatever they do, however they
Yeah.
rate that. But she said the today on a podcast I was listening to that she did with Jay Shetty, she was talking about how sad it makes her
Mhm.
to know that so many people have been stuck in this and they're not living their purpose. They're
Mhm.
not being able to be creative and experience life and share what God has gifted them to share with this world, because they have
Yeah.
been pushed down and
Mhm.
shoved down and treated so disrespectfully that now they have no self-worth, and they honestly just don't have the energy to get up and get out.
Yeah.
And that, I think that is where my heart is, because I know God has a purpose for his girls. And if we let Satan, who I believe is behind all this, this whole relationship, narcissistic, there's an evil spirit there. I don't
Mm-hmm.
want to call them a demon or that they've got a demon, but there's some kind of spirit on these
Mm-hmm.
abusers.
Mm-hmm.
If we allow Satan to steal our joy, our life, our creativity, our purpose,
Mm-hmm.
he's won. He's
Yeah.
won. And it makes me sad because you know, I do feel like after being out of this relationship, I'm breathing again.
Right.
I, I mean, my mother called me after all this happened and she goes, "What? You look so pretty today." And I was
Yeah.
like, "Thank you, Mom." And she was like, what's going on?" And she didn't know at the time that I had ended the relationship because I was just like, it's one of those things. Is this going to stick? Because
Mm-hmm.
it's one of those, I kept taking him back. So I'm thinking if I tell my family, they're going to be
Right.
disappointed in me
Is this
again,
the one time? Yeah.
Yeah. So
Mm.
she was like, "Oh my gosh, honey, your face looks amazing." And you're like, just like, I don't know. And I said, "Well,
You had the
I asked
glow.
him to leave."
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And
Mhm.
she was complimenting me and she was like, "I'm so proud of you, honey." And just hang in there. And like,
Right.
you've got to have your family support. If you have a family member that is a narcissist, please do not go to your family to try to reach,
Mhm.
have support.
Right.
But that is what I often tell my clients, like, where is your support system? Because you're going to
Mhm.
need it. If it's not me, like, but and usually my clients do have pretty much access to me 24/7 if they need it.
Mhm.
But because I know what it's like to go through it, that especially that first 48, 72 hours is
Oh, yeah.
really scary
Mine were
because you
my close girlfriends, my
good.
close girlfriends. And
Yep.
still to this day, every morning I get a text message from each of them.
Oh,
You
that's
know,
so
even
wonderful.
and there's one particular one where she'll send me two little emojis that we have a little inside joke about. She just sends those
Uh-huh.
emojis every morning. And sometimes we don't have a conversation. There's some days where it's just the emojis in the morning, and it's just her little way of just touching me saying, "Hey, I'm thinking about you. You're okay. Everything's gonna be
It's
okay."
what, yep, it's what will keep us going
Mhm.
because it's so tempting to just fall back into, it's kind of like I attribute it to birthing pains. We
Uh-huh.
forget how bad it was when it's
Yeah.
over and when
Mhm.
we can breathe a little bit and then we are like, "Oh, maybe it wasn't that bad. Let me have
Mhm.
another kid. Let me get back into this toxic
Yeah.
relationship." And
Yeah.
then it oftentimes is 10 times worse, oftentimes. Now, I'm not saying that there is no hope because I know at least 3 people that I could name right now on like social media that are professed narcissist, but because they have done years of therapy and
Mhm.
is still in therapy,
Mhm.
you know, they have done the work. They have changed. But, many, 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 many times, like 99.99999% of the chance of those types of people changing is
Mhm.
very, very slim. And so let me give you hope and your listeners hope when we start to think, "Oh, if I could just wait one more month, then he'll change." Or, "Well, what if he goes to the next partner and he is all those things that I wanted him to be?" Or, "What if," no, no, no.
No. Mhm.
99999 point percent. I mean, like
Yeah.
99.999%. They
Yeah.
will not change. They're not
Yeah.
going to, honey. So
Right.
give it up, take a breath, walk away from that relationship, and start living your freaking life that God has called you to live. Like, oh my God, I feel like a weight has been lifted off of me. I
Mhm.
mean, I look better, I feel better, I'm not worried about if I say hi to another male or good
Yeah.
morning and I'm going to get in trouble for that. Or if somebody likes my picture on social media, who's that person? I mean, I'm not under so much, you don't realize how stressful it is until you're out of it. So let
Right.
me just encourage you to get out, see how you feel,
Yeah.
see if you can think clearly, and then we'll talk about it, how you feel after about 3 or 4 months of being free from that, because they will give you, it changes the chemistry of your brain,
Mhm.
not for a good way, not in a good way. And there's so much science now that shows almost like dementia that's happening to your brain, like your brain is shrinking when you're
Mhm.
in these abusive relationships. It's
Mhm.
very, very dangerous.
Well, you know, you and I had talked about this last week when we were chatting that, and even like with my autoimmune, part of it is some of your memory.
Yep.
And we would have, you know, episodes where I worked so hard on forgetting that moment that I was starting to forget things that I wanted to remember, if that even makes
Mm,
sense. You
yeah.
know,
Yeah.
like because I don't like to give too many details, but you know, like my husband would do something and I would work so hard on, you know, forgiving and forgetting that I would forget about other things that happened in that time period that I should have remembered. And that's not healthy.
No,
That's not healthy
no.
at all. And I was going to ask you, what, you know, what are some tips that you can give our listeners that they might think that they're in a toxic relationship? What are some
Yeah.
first steps?
First steps. Yeah. The first step is the awareness piece. Like we
Mhm,
have to, like I said to you before, I was in denial for so long. So once you become aware, now you've got to do something about it.
mhm,
So getting yourself a support system, whether that's therapy, a coach, a really good intimate friend who's not going to judge you, that's important. Um, so ascribing to something like meditation, walks in nature,
mhm,
things that are going to slow down and regulate your nervous system. Because when you're in this relationship, everything is it's just so much anxiety and so much chaos and so much tension
mhm,
that you can't think clearly. So, what you've got to do is you've got to, take care of your health. What are you eating every day? Are you drinking enough water? Are you
mhm,
getting outside daily for fresh air? Are you, because when we do these things to take care of us, I have a guidebook that explains preparing our hearts to leave and what we have to do, like 5 steps to get us to the point where we're like, okay, yeah, I think it's time for me. And it's all about, and I know this is so cliche, but it's all about self-love. It really is.
mhm,
Self-love and self-compassion. So I'm taking care of my mental health by finding a person, a coach, a counselor, whatever. I'm going to get an outside, and even the Bible talks about that. The Bible says there's wisdom in the counsel of many. So
mhm,
get yourself some wisdom, get yourself some counselors or coaches or whatever.
mhm.
Begin to do something like meditation. That meditation saved my life.
Yeah.
That's why I'm certified in it, because I know that that's what helps. And I do have a free meditation that I give. If any of your listeners want the access to
Mhm,
that, I will make sure that we get them that. Um, so getting outside, drinking healthy, clean water, having journal time is
mhm,
another one. There's something beautiful about somatic practice of writing.
mhm,
So I know that people like to text. I know that people like to even voice, just kind of speak out, because I've done that too. Like when I'm upset about something, it's really good to like voice it into my voice recorder, like, remember this that made you upset, and
mhm,
like it's good for me to talk it through. But there is something beautiful about writing it.
mhm,
There's some research out about it that it actually changes your brain chemistry whenever you're writing this stuff out. It's just a somatic practice.
mhm,
um Walking, yoga, something like that, that helps move your body, because trauma will get stuck in your body. So that's where the disease comes along. When we're not processing these emotions and it gets stuck in our body somewhere, mostly our hips or our low back.
mhm.
Sometimes it's our neck and shoulders, but 9 times out of 10, I'm seeing it more in people's hips and their back. Um,
And they
when
have
you,
somatic exercises out there that I've discovered
oh
that
yeah,
are flipping
there's,
amazing. They're
yeah, and there's free stuff. Yeah.
yeah.
You don't have to pay for it. Dance, beautiful dance. Dance is a beautiful expression.
Mhm,
Um, it's really learning about what is grounding to you, and what does that look like? For
mhm,
you, does that look like putting your feet on the ground? Does it look like going outside for a walk? Does it look like
mhm.
laying in the sun? Does it look like dancing? Does it look like yoga? What makes you
Right.
feel a release?
Right. My therapist explained, she was like, Monica, think about your senses. Like when they get you, even after a conversation that you might have with them, And this isn't just in the relationship, but this is after the relationship, because after the relationship, especially if you've got children together, if you have any type of business dealings together, you're still going to have to deal with this person. And
Yep.
there's going to be several times where they're going to get you upset. It could take a 2-minute conversation, and all of a sudden you can just feel your anxiety go from here to here in 2 minutes, 2 seconds. So
Hmm.
she's like, Monica, think about your senses. And you've got to get that shot of dopamine. So if there's a candle that you like, light that candle. If
Yep.
there's some music that you like, play the music, not loud, but light enough in the background where your mind has to concentrate to listen to that music. If you enjoy petting your dog, that sense of petting your dog, like do what you have to do to relax your mind and just get that shot of dopamine. Go for a walk, do things of that nature.
Hmm.
And then I wanted to touch on, you were talking about self-love. I'm huge about self-love right now, huge. And I think it's important for us, not just women, but everyone, to look in the mirror and to love what you see and to see yourself as God sees you. And sometimes that takes us a while to get to.
Oh
But to
yeah.
truly look in that mirror and to see yourself as God sees you, I mean, that's true self-love. And if you're not there, try and figure out a way what you can do to get yourself there.
Yeah. Mirror work is really tough, and that's what you're describing right now. Mirror work, and it's looking at yourself and really, really like looking into your eyes and almost
Mhm,
like into your soul and loving on her and telling her how beautiful she is. Even sometimes, even when you don't feel it,
mhm,
eventually you will. It's kind of like faith.
mhm.
And prayer. We pray. We don't actually know if God's going to answer it, but we're going to keep praying. It's like
Yeah.
it, but it begins to build that our faith whenever we start seeing God work in certain areas. But same thing with mirror work. So in the morning, you know, you may not feel beautiful, but God says you're beautiful.
Mhm.
So God says I'm beautiful. If you don't want to say I am beautiful, like I know that affirmations can sometimes feel really weird and out of alignment with people, and they're just like, I don't feel this at all. Okay, then say what God says about you.
Yeah.
God says I'm beautiful. God says
Mhm,
I'm a princess. God says I'm his daughter.
mhm,
See, I love that one more than anything because as the king's daughter, if the king of the universe, my heavenly father, is standing beside me
mhm,
and this person is calling me these names or emotionally manipulating me or hurting me, is
mhm,
my father going to be okay with that? I'm
mhm.
his daughter.
Right.
No,
Yeah.
no, he's not. He's going to say, no, sir. No, I mean,
Mhm,
if it was my earthly father, he would probably take him out.
mhm.
So my heavenly father is not any different. Like, yes, he loves that person too, but he does not want his girls to be damaged by
Mhm,
men's words or actions or behaviors or emotional manipulation. So, what does God say about you? And if
mhm.
you don't know, there again, you can Google it. What does God say? What does God say about his daughter? I mean, there's so many free resources that, it's the sky's the limit when it comes to that.
Mhm.
But mirror work is tough, and I have Post-it notes everywhere. I have it on every single mirror in my house, and then my RV. I'm living in an RV right now, which I love. And then when I wake up in the mornings, I have Post-it notes right above my little ceiling there that says, I'm backed by heaven, and this is my year. And I mean, just all these encouraging things. Sometimes you have to hype yourself up to
Right.
get yourself to that
And
point where you
fake it
know.
till you make it.
Honestly, I mean,
Yeah.
sometimes you do have to do that, and
Mhm.
often another really good way to kind of work with affirmations, mirror work, whatever you want to say, to make it feel authentic is what negative thing am I saying about myself? So again, this is a huge self-awareness. You've got to be aware of what monkey chatter is going on. What am
Mhm.
I negative? I don't like my nose. Okay. Well, okay. So what can I say positive about that? Well, you know what? It allows me to
I was
smell
right. Or I was made in his image, and this is how God wants me to look.
that. And
That and my
honestly,
big forehead.
is that not is that not a slap in his face when we're saying to him, hey, I don't really like the way you created it's like spreads across my face and I really don't like it. Like,
Mhm.
is that not a slap in his face? What if you made dinner for your family and you spent a lot of time and a lot of effort and they were like, "Ugh, I don't like this.
Right.
This is
Mhm.
terrible. This tastes terrible." It would hurt your
Right.
feelings.
Yeah.
It's not necessarily a thing against you. It's just they didn't like whatever, but that would hurt. I don't want to hurt my Heavenly Father's feelings. I don't want to, be like, I don't like how you made me, you
Mhm.
know? Um, I love that in this generation, in this time that we're in, women are really encouraged to embrace who they are. Now, so
Mhm.
we can take that to extreme. Like, if you're unhealthy and you're like, I don't care, I'm just going to eat whatever I want to eat. Now, I think that's not taking care of God's temple. I think you can be extreme,
Mhm.
but I do love the embracing of just our feminine beauty the way we are. We don't have to be a size 2. We don't have to be a size 6. We don't have to be like, we just need to be healthy. What am I putting in and on my body that is
Mhm.
showing that's another part of self-love. It's not just like what are we saying to ourselves? It's what are we doing? Like,
Mhm.
what kind of are you putting on toxic chemicals on your body? Do you have toxic environment that you're letting it affect you? Like, take care of it. God
Mhm.
gave you this one body, this one life. Let's love on her.
Right.
And I think I did make a reel a while back, and it was kind of along this lines of like just talking to her, like, you're so beautiful. I just love how
Yeah.
you are. And like when I'm dancing, it's very weird, but
Mhm.
when I'm dancing, I like to like touch myself and dance like I'm just
Yeah.
loving on who I am right
Yeah.
now. And so I don't think it's wrong. I think it's beautiful, and I think God wants us to be, in a sense, proud of who we are.
Mhm.
Because like you said, we're made in his image,
Mhm.
and because ultimately it's a reflection of him,
Yeah.
right?
So you are a relationship coach, and all of these areas are something that you can help women. You work with women and men,
I
mostly women.
haven't worked Yeah, I mostly work with
Okay.
women.
Okay.
It's my specialty. It's kind of hard to work with a man because I'm not a man. So
Yeah.
it's not that I can't give men advice, because obviously we can give them some heads up
Right.
about some things if they'll just
Yeah.
listen.
Yeah. So
But
what sets you apart from other coaches?
yeah. So that is the element that I love to talk about, because
Mhm.
it is important to understand where you are in your relationship. But I think, like you were saying earlier about the healing part, and sometimes it doesn't start until you get out of the relationship and you start realizing you've got to feel safe in your body. You've got to start loving on your body. And what does that look like?
Mhm.
So, I take a holistic approach, which means we work with the body, mind, and the spirit. So, we're going to look at what you're eating. We're going to look at what you're putting on your body. I'm going to give you some tips. I'm going to give you a menu, even a detox guide, if you choose to do that. I feel like is really important, because it is an element of control that now you have. I can control what I put in and on my body. I'm going to detox my gut health. And by the way, gut health is
Mhm.
just so important, because when you're in a toxic relationship, it will destroy you because of the anxiety. The anxiety destroys your gut health. Um, so we take a holistic approach. We're going to look at what you're eating, what you have in what kind of cleaning supplies you using. Um, we're going to work with the mindset. So we're going to do a lot of thought work, and where does this feeling come from? What thought does it come from? What action is it kind of displaying now? And then we do a lot of inner child work. So we're going to go into some of that. We're going to work with some of your trauma and how that is relating to your present day circumstances and the partnerships that I hate the word attracting, but you kind of really are attracting
Yeah.
these people, because we see them as the savior for our need to be met. And there
Mhm.
is a energetic exchange that we cannot understand. To me, it's on a spiritual level of what that person's energy is bringing, and you sense it and they sense it, and your wounds kind of intermesh with one another. And
Yeah.
then before you know it, you are in a toxic relationship. So we work with that. And we do meditation, calming your nervous system, which you were talking about earlier. That like a 2-minute conversation can set you off.
Mhm.
So whenever you're building resilience in your meditation, and the more meditating you do, the more your stress bucket gets emptier and emptier, so you can handle more.
Mm-hmm.
So I encourage my ladies to meditate twice a day. And it's kind of like an odd math, but when you're meditating once a day, you're ridding yourself of the stresses of the past 24 hours. If you're
Mm-hmm.
meditating twice a day, you're going deeper, because you not only got rid of the stressors of the day, but now you're going deeper into yesterday's stressors. And then you meditate next day, and it's like compounds on one another. And before
Yeah.
you know it, you're releasing stresses from the past that have caused a lot of the issues you have today. And meditation is just, it's it to me, it's an untapped free resource that people just
Yeah.
aren't taking advantage of. It's I'm When I say it saved my life, it really did save my life. Like, I
Mhm.
think I probably would have taken my life had I not had meditation to rely on, because I was in such a stressed out state of anxiety. Like, I was not healthy mentally and emotionally. And I thought, I'm just going to have to end it. And
Mhm.
meditation saved it for me. So
Right.
it's why I'm so passionate about that. But, and then we work with, what are your core values and what requirements do you have for a man? Because here's the thing, we're not vetting our men, and we need to be.
Mm-hmm.
We are in a different age. Women can have a job. We can do, we can have our career.
Mm-hmm.
Um, we don't have to have a man. And I know that's tough to hear for a lot of men, but we don't have to have you anymore. We would
Right.
like to have you. We
Mm-hmm.
want to have you, but we
Yeah.
don't need you in
Mm-hmm.
that sense.
Yeah.
So when you go in for a interview, there's a process. They want to know, are you good at this and this and this and this and this? And now, as women, we can kind of do that with our relationships. And I think it's a good idea, because
Yeah.
there can be that chemistry, and that's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
But what happens when the chemistry dies down? Who is this person? What kind of a character do they
Mm-hmm.
have? Do their values align with yours? We're not asking these tough questions. We're just letting men, oh, they like you? Oh, okay, okay. I'm so giddy. I'm so happy. Let me just get into this relationship just
Mm-hmm.
because they like you and they think you're cute or whatever. No, 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 no. Like, yeah, there's passion and it's beautiful to have that in a relationship, but there's so much more to a healthy relationship. And it starts with, what are your core values? What are your core requirements? And if they don't meet them, you have to say no.
And I think it's important that I don't know if I want to use this phrase, but I'm going to use it, fix ourselves, get
Yeah.
ourselves right before we get into another relationship. Or like for you, you got right back into another toxic relationship. So I think a very important part of the healing process is to work on you before you
Yeah.
even bring in another soul.
Yeah. Dr. Romani says 1 year. She says to go 1 year, go through
Yeah.
every season without that person. And that will kind of help you detox from that person, and also
Mhm.
help you figure out what it is you like, what it is
Right.
you don't like, because that
Mhm.
part of you gets stolen from you.
Yeah.
You are told what to like.
Yeah.
And if you aren't told, you're conditioned. So they
Hmm.
do things very sneakily. So,
Right.
they may not outright say, I don't like it when you wear that, but they're going to say something negative
Yeah.
that's going to make you feel bad, and then you're going to change, or whatever it is.
Yeah.
I don't like it when you
And
cook that, and then you change how you cook or whatever.
to some women that can sound like a long time, a year, but from my experience, like I'm only 5.5 months into it now. I love this season that I love this year that I'm in.
Mm-hmm.
I just feel like a completely new person.
Yep.
I,
I
lo- I
love
love
that.
I love learning about myself. I love healing myself. I am just I don't even know what words to use, but I love this season. So really a
Yeah.
year, I mean it'll go by fast.
It really will. And I mean, it doesn't always have to be, that's not a hard, fast rule, but it is definitely something to consider,
Yeah.
because it does depend a lot on how much work you're willing to do. So, are you on a therapy? Are you seeing a coach? Are you doing your meditations daily? Are you writing? Are you journaling? Have you had no contact with this person as much as possible? I know in
Yeah.
co-parenting and things like that, you can't really always do that, but as little contact that it's, do you get to the point where when you hear this person's name or see something that reminds you of them or a smell, does it trigger you? Like that's when you know you're not ready.
Yeah.
You're still not ready.
Mhm.
So I have seen and heard some relationship coaches, men in particular, say that if you have the right man and he's done his work,
Mhm.
he can actually help you do your work. So there, that it's possible to not be what you would consider. I mean, how do you know if you're fully healed? You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
so it is a journey that we're always
Mhm.
on, but you do need to do some work to figure out what it is that's inside of you that was attracted to this toxic person and then allowed this person to continue to hurt you, and you tolerated it for as long as you did. What's
Mhm.
in there? What's going on with that? Is it a lack of self-worth? Is it a lack of self-love? Like that's where you want to do the questions, and that's where a coach can come in and really kind of help you ask those tough questions.
Right.
And the way I work with mine is I've seen a couple of coaches that are pretty harsh with their clients. I'm not that. I just
Yeah.
know how challenging it is to leave a relationship. And so I'm really gentle with my clients, just because I know that's how I would want to be treated. So,
Every interaction that I've had with you, you are a very loving and kind person. So
mm, thank
I
you.
I'm pretty sure that that's your coaching style as well.
Yeah,
So
I mean, I just know that um, love is what draws people,
yeah.
and love is what heals people.
Hmm.
And so, to me, it's God. That's what he
Yeah.
says. God is love. And I think
Right.
that's just, I'm a weird hippie freak when it comes to all that kind of stuff, because
Yeah.
I just believe that, I'm not naive enough to believe that everybody's good and all the world is good. I know that there's some yucky people out there. Obviously, I've been
Yeah.
involved with them, but I also know that love, the Bible tells us love covers a multitude of sins, that God is love. And I believe that if we have God within us, that's what we're supposed to display.
Right.
So, I just have an enormous amount of compassion for women who've gone through this. And that leads me back to my original thing I said. He said to me, hold on tight. You're about to be in for the ride of your life.
Yeah.
What I have been through has allowed me to shed the shackles of judgment. Oh, girl,
Hmm.
I was the Pharisee of them all.
Hmm.
I would never do that. I would never say that. I would never go there. Oh my God, it was so disgusting.
Yeah.
And here I find myself with so much incredible empathy and compassion and love for people, not just women who've gone through this, just people.
Yeah.
And I believe that that is God took me through this
Hmm.
to get me to this point,
Hmm.
to heal some of my stuff too, but really to show me what he's calling me to be and do for other people. I believe that 100,000%, because
Absolutely.
also also it shows women that none of this is of what for waste. Like he's not wasting any part of our life, any part of our hurt, any part of the things that traumas that we've been through. He doesn't waste any of it. He uses it all for his
All for
good and
good.
for our good.
Mhm.
Yeah,
That's why we can't regret any of the relationships or the things that we're going through, because it has given us what we need to do what we're doing now to fulfill his
absolutely.
purpose. So
Yeah,
how can the
absolutely.
listeners get a hold of you on social media?
Okay. Yeah. So
Mhm.
on Facebook, I'm my name, Jami Kay, and it's Jamie with an I, Jamikay. And then my website's Healthy Human Happy Life. So www.healthyhumanhappylife.com.
Yeah.
And on Instagram, I'm healthyhumanhappylife.com or slash Instagram, whatever it is. And then I have a TikTok. I love TikTok.
I know I've been watching you on TikTok. I love
I'm
it.
a TikToker now.
Yeah,
I don't know. I'm trying to figure out the ins and outs of TikTok, but I'm just wanting to
I
reach
know. I'm
that
still learning.
generation too. I know
Mhm.
there's some older people in TikTok, but I think that is really important for us to reach them as well, because
Oh,
the younger
yes.
generation needs to understand what a healthy relationship looks
Yeah.
like, or they're
And
just going to continue to
that's a
repeat
whole
the
nother
patterns.
topic. That's a whole nother
Ab-
topic.
oh,
Mhm.
absolutely. But that one over there, I think is Jamie K 3. So,
Okay.
but I will make sure that I send you all the links so that your listeners can have it in the show notes or whatever. But,
Yeah,
um,
absolutely. And
and then, yeah,
I love how the sun is coming in on you right now.
oh my gosh,
You're glowing. You're glowing.
I have a skylight there in the RV. So I changed
It's
out the
hitting perfect right
frosted.
now.
Yeah,
It's
that's
hitting
so
perfect
funny.
right now.
God is shining his glory on
He
me.
is. You've got that glow that we talked about earlier. So, Jamie, thank you so much. I'm so blessed that God crossed our paths. And I
Same.
still feel like I have so much to learn from you. And like I said, I've been watching your TikTok. I watch your videos. You are definitely a delight and a joy to know. So
Thank
thank you so
you.
much.
Thank you. I can't wait to see what God does with us in the future too, because I don't think this is the end for me and you.
No, absolutely not. Okay. Well, take care. Thank you.